Jenna, I got to start by giving props to CP3. That was magnificent. And all you young point guards out there, don't listen to your analytics coaches and think, oh, only layups and threes. All of that was mid-range. Learn from CP3. But to answer your question, Jenna, no, I'm not. We didn't foresee Devin Booker going down with the hamstring injury. And I know he came back yesterday and played, but he clearly wasn't himself. But he did hit some big shots in the fourth, hit a big three, scored 7 of his 13 in the fourth quarter. Look, to use Wild's word, New Orleans was pesky. They obviously have a bright future, but I think this was good for the Suns after running through the season the way they did, finishing so far out in front of everybody else. You can get complacent. So this was just what the doctor ordered, assuming that Devin Booker is healthy. They'll be fine. This will be good for them. And it wasn't, Nick, quite as close as everybody thought. I mean, game 1, game 5, they won by double figures. We were just surprised that it took 6 games. And so we felt like it was much closer
last night was close
than it actually was.
And last night was a one-point game
I'm talking about
with
the series overall.
2 minutes left.
Series overall.
The series, absolutely.
Right.
And listen, shout out to Willie Green. That team started 1-10. And they're in a game 6 close late with no Zion all year. He did a fantastic job. Also, shout out to the much maligned David Griffin. Jose Alvarado, Herb Jones, Willie Green has made some really good decisions. We thought like his job was in jeopardy, not anymore. And then finally, of course, shout out to Chris Paul. The only playoffs or regular season, the only guy to ever take more shots without a miss is Wilt Chamberlain. I don't know that I totally agree with Broussard about young point guards trying to model their game after Chris Paul. The mid-range works for him because he's one of the greatest mid-range shooters of all time. Like, that is the Chris Paul shot. And so I think it's going to be tough for a lot of guys to replicate that. But Wilds, you know what my takeaway from this game was? Oh, boy.
Go ahead.
Oh, boy. The Suns are ripe for the picking for Luka. They are ripe for the picking. And I don't know if you saw it. And you can't get it anymore because I've been moving lines, America, when it comes to the Mavericks. The Mavericks were plus 300 when I woke up this morning. Now, I fired a sizable wager on that, so that might have moved, like I moved multiple lines in this series because Vegas listens to my Dallas Mavericks takes and adjusts accordingly. But 3-1? 3-1? Pump the brakes, fellas. Pump the brakes. But yes, Chris Paul, all-time great game. And if he wins the title, Brew, if they win the title, we're gonna have to have the Chris Paul Isaiah Thomas discussion. It has to at least be a discussion.
Ooh.
But we're not there yet, and they're not gonna win the title because they're gonna lose in round 2.
Chris is great.
Go ahead, Brew. Or Wild.
Yeah. If he wins the title, he jumps over Isaiah Thomas. That discussion doesn't have to be too long. And here's how he's going to get there.
Where am I?
He's going to have a bevy of beautiful passes. It's okay. We're talking. That's down the road. He's going to have a bevy of beautiful passes. He's going to have pretty, soft, pillowy, mid-range floaters. And he's going to hit a few guys below the belt and in the face with his elbows. And I think Luka's got to be ready for this,
He's
Nick.
feisty.
I know you like your small sample size, but this is the Chris Paul that doesn't necessarily show up at the State Farm commercials. Oh, Jake from State Farm, watch out. Watch out, my friend. Those aren't just low rates. Those are low blows. So this is the one that he got fined for in Game 5. Then yesterday, he hits Alvarado
Game-winning play.
here. And this is still a basketball play. Little bonus shot there. And Alvarado is trying to plead to everyone, including the broadcasters. And the broadcasters are like, Reggie Miller's like, man, I can't make the call. I can't make the call. But these are the types of plays that are going to take, that it's just going to be a little bit. Got to get every inch. And that is like football. And that is Chris Paul. We are activating extra dirty Chris Paul. And Broussard, you know who doesn't like to get hit? Who doesn't like to get bothered? Who turns out to whine a lot? Oh, our guy Luka. Oh, referees, what's going on? Tee him up, Luka. I'm telling you, Chris Paul is going to bait Luka into some bad text, Nick. He's not ready for it. He's not ready for it. Not ready for dirty Chris Paul.
Dog walk Chris Paul if he tries this nonsense on him. Luka's got 8 inches, 70 pounds, and 15 years of growing up in Eastern Europe.
That's why it's called a low blow.
CP3, you're the point guy. This is the best game of your life, arguably. I'm telling you right now, don't try that stuff with my son. Don't try that nonsense with Luka. It's not going to go well.
He'll probably listen.
They did exactly what they needed to do, and everyone important did their job, which is this was a best-case scenario game for Philly. James Harden had his first, I would say, really good game of the series. Joel Embiid dominated, as Broussard said he had to. Tyrese Maxey, who's the X factor for them, was the star of the third quarter, which is the period that blew the game open. Yep. And Tobias Harris, Brew, who was excellent throughout the series, had another really good game by his standards. So everything you wanted to see, they did. And I do think if you're Philly, you can, and we in the media should maybe acknowledge this, that you look at this series and you say, okay, Philly had one horrific game, Game 5, and that made all of us, because of the baggage of Doc and the baggage of Harden, maybe we overreacted a bit. They dominated games 1 and 2. They beat a desperate Toronto team in Game 3 with the buzzer beater by Embiid. Game 4, I expected them to lose if they took it lightly and Toronto had some fight. Game 5 was awful and truly awful, and then they were great again last night. So I think maybe there was a slight overreaction to how much trouble Philly was in, and I think they showed it yesterday.
Well, to your overreaction point, Nick, it did start to feel like this is a conference final or something, right? Like, I mean, I had to sit back and realize this was just round 1. You know, we all did really. There's a lot of emphasis on this series, but I think rightly so, because as you mentioned, the history of James Harden and Doc Rivers, but they showed me a lot. Number 1, I like the fact that James Harden came out and handled the pressure. I mean, really, it was just the first round, but still, it's not like he's never had big playoff performances in big games, but he's had so many poor ones, and this was a Game 6, and the pressure was high, because had they had to go back to Philly for Game 7, who knows what would have happened. And so Harden not only handled it, but he thrived, as you said, Nick. Look, and the second thing they showed was the way they need to play, I think, to have their best chance to advance further in the playoffs. And Harden came out aggressive. He had 10 points in the first, 10 points, 5 assists in the first quarter, 8 points in the first 6 minutes. But he only took 12 shots in the game. So what I liked was that Harden was aggressive, but as a playmaker. All right, he doesn't have to be the Houston Rockets James Harden Wilds for them to be successful. What I like with them is a James Harden who's an aggressive playmaker, all right? He may only take 12 to 15 shots, but he's efficient, so he gives you 20-something points, gives you 12 or so assists, and Embiid, of course, gives you 30, and maybe Maxey is the second leading scorer, because that's fine as long as Harden's the one setting the table. Tobias Harris got his as well. So that, to me, is the formula for the Sixers to have a chance to beat Miami Wilds.
I think you're spot on. I think an aggressive Harden is the key to all of the Sixers' success. And this was, me and Dusty made this little stat, and by me and Dusty, I just really mean Dusty. From January 22nd to April 24th, James Harden did not attempt a dunk. He had 2 dunks in this series. This one, he almost had back-to-back dunks last night. Lane opened up, boom, left-handed dunk. So I think where it's like, wow, has he lost his step? Is it this? Is it that? Like, yeah, if you go 3 months without dunking, you've lost a step. And the fact that he's got 2 in this series, it means either A, he's feeling a little bit more confident, a little more bouncy, and B, he's just being aggressive.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.